So today we are going to be talking about how to read a story. And this might sound simple enough, but I found that a lot of people struggle with reading stories to kids or are very reluctant to read stories to kids just because they haven't had a whole lot of experience with it and they're afraid of messing up or the kids not liking the story. So today I'm here to give you some tips on how to get over that a little bit and maybe help you on your next time when you do read stories to kids. So my first tip is to handcraft every story. And that might sound a little artsy-fartsy, a little, too much for kids' books, but it really does help. When I was younger, I read Inkheart by Cornelia Funke, and she wrote about a character whose father could literally bring characters to life by reading them. And so that's the kind of ideal I would like to have. I wouldn't want to do that every single time, but I do want to bring these characters alive for kids during story time. And one way to do that is just by thinking about the story in depth and thinking about the characters. I also think about what my band teacher told me in high school, where he said you need to handcraft every note. And what he meant by that was you need to think about the note that you're producing in your musical instrument and think about its sound and how it's going to sound. Is it the right sound? Is it too sharp or too flat? Is it just right? Is it too loud? Is it too soft? Where do you need to go? Is it as beautiful and as perfect as you can make it be? If it is, then what about the next note and the note after that? And so you just need to think purposefully about what you produce. And so I kind of think about those two ideals when I get ready to read stories to kids, that I want to try to make the stories as unique as possible and as memorable as possible. Of course, not every single story the kids are going to remember, and that's fine. But, on the off chance that they do, I want to make it as fun for them and as engaging for them as possible, so that way when they think about it later on down the road and they're thinking about all their good memories, maybe they're thinking about all the good stories that they read and all the characters that they read or heard. So that's just kind of at the back of my mind when I'm getting ready to think about story time and reading stories to kids. So my second tip is to get into character. And one of the ways that you can do that is obviously to do voices. But not everyone is going to be comfortable with doing voices. And that's fine. You don't have to do a voice if you don't want to. And some books, which I'll talk about later, don't even have characters to do voices in. But if you do want to get voices, or if you want to at least try it, and I would always encourage you to try to do voices, here are some tips that I found that have helped me, and so hopefully they'll help you. I would just say be comfortable with doing voices and just putting yourself out there. The kids aren't professional movie reviewers or play reviewers. They're not going to write about your story time in the New York Times or anything. And so it's okay. Just feel, just a little bit at ease that you're not going to be judged too critically for how you do a character or how you do a voice. More often than not, kids are going to enjoy the voices than you just straight reading the book. I haven't had a kid yet say that he hasn't liked my voice, or my voices that I do for characters, so there's that. Here are some different ways that I've done characters. So I have an old lady voice or an old man voice, and so my voice is a little shaky. I do it like I have a scared voice, and my voice is a little bit lower, and I'm a little bit shaky. And then like I have a narrator voice, which is just my normal tone of voice. I have a voice for a little character, which is really high and really squeaky. And then I have a voice for a big character, and my voice is louder and deeper. And then I have a voice for a scary character. So I really try to enunciate when I do that voice, because sometimes it can be easy to talk fast and the words kind of just get all jumbled up and they might not understand what you're saying. So I put a little bit of a growl on there. And sometimes I do facial expressions, like if I'm getting really worried or I'm really happy. Sometimes I do hand gestures, but most of the time I'm holding my book, so I don't really do a whole lot of hand gestures. So those are just some different ways that you can bring a character to life. And like I said, just read the story beforehand and kind of get a sense for who these characters are. Sometimes, I mean, you might just have a little boy and girl and that's it, and there's not really much voices you can do, and that's fine. That's totally fine too. Which brings me to my third point, which is to read the story and know the story. So, like I said before, some books don't have a central character. They're more esoteric, I guess, or they're more flowy. They don't really have a plot. A good example of these are all the seasonal books that I've read for story time that just talk about the transition from one season to the next. And there's not a central character that goes through these transition, or the central character is a tree. And so it's like, well, I can't even do a voice for the tree because it's not talking. So what can I do? So just know the tone of the story that you're reading. So if you're reading a very calming kind of story, slow down your words and really take the time with your words and handcraft every single word and just speak in a calming voice. And most of the time those picture books come with really cool illustrations or really beautiful illustrations, and so you can take the time to point out some of the features in the illustration that you're seeing, like, oh, isn't that a gorgeous flower? You know, just really draw their attention to the artwork, because that's the main focus of the book, is the artwork, not necessarily the words. Likewise, you need to kind of know where your story is going to end up. So every story most of the time has some sort of structure. So there's an upward movement and you get to the climax and it's really actiony and it's all this stuff is happening. And then there's the falling action where you're resolving the conflict or the problem and it's on a downhill slope. And then sometimes in the middle you have your ups and downs. So you kind of need to know where your book is heading. So if there's like a lot of action happening and it's a very action-packed book and there's exclamation points and bangs and zooms and blah, you need to use a very high energy kind of voice, you know, a very loud voice, talking really fast. If there is a downward point, like there's a problem that's coming up or there's a scary part, take your time with that and just slow it down. And so being able to know where the book twists and turns in that and being able to adjust your voice to that and to how fast you talk or to how slow you talk, that can be a help too. And so finally, my last point is to just have fun. Like I said before, the kids aren't going to judge you too harshly for reading a book with a weird voice unless they just couldn't understand the story in your weird voice. I did a story time where I was Darth Vader for all of it, and I did that for a week. And the kids really enjoyed it. Some kids were like, meh, but most of the kids they really, really got into it, and they thought it was great, and they thought it was funny. Just really get into the story, even down to like the words. There was another story I read where it was about pooping, you know, because kids like to read books about poop and it's funny and they think it's funny and they giggle and everything, and the parents are sitting in the back like looking grossed out and everything. So to really accentuate like the funniness of it, because they found the words butt and poop really funny, I enunciated those words like I just did. So poop, that's what people in like music or the recording industry, they call that popping your P's, where you really enunciate your P's. And so I was reading the story, and every time they said the word poop, I'd say it like that, poop. And so, I mean, that would just really get the kids. And that wasn't even a funny voice that I had. It was just doing an extra thing with the words. And that was just something I experimented with, and I found that the kids really liked it, and they thought it was really funny. So just play around with the book a little bit, play around with the kids. That way you can learn what doesn't work, what does work, and grow as a storyteller. So one of the examples of the books that I'm going to read today is called The Grouchy Ladybug, and it's an example of how you can fluctuate your voice. I did this for a story time for a whole week, and the voice I do for it is, I mean, it's really grating because he's grouchy, you know. This is not going to be a pleasant ladybug to encounter, so you don't have a pleasant voice. So this is just an example of how you can do a simple voice and how you can fluctuate between your narrating voice and a funny voice and how the kids can really get into it. So I'm going to apologize ahead of advance. So if you're listening to headphones, I'm really sorry because my voice for this is going to be really loud. So if you need to turn down your audio, that's fine. Sorry if this is going to be grating on your ears, but it was fun and the kids seemed to really like it. So this is The Grouchy Ladybug by Eric Carlisle. The Grouchy Ladybug. It was night, and some fireflies danced around the moon. At 5 o'clock in the morning, the sun came up. A friendly ladybug flew in from the left. It saw a leaf with many aphids on it, and decided to have them for breakfast. But just then, a grouchy ladybug flew in from the right. It too saw the aphids and wanted them for breakfast. So I don't know if you could hear that, there were two different tones of voices I used. So the friendly ladybug is a higher octave and more soothing. And then as soon as we get to the problem, just then, very deep, very menacing kind of voice. That way you know that there's a problem coming. Good morning, said the friendly ladybug. Go away, shouted the grouchy ladybug. I want those aphids. We can share them, suggested the friendly ladybug. No, they're mine, all mine, screamed the grouchy ladybug. Or do you want to fight me for them? If you insist, answered the friendly ladybug sweetly. It looked the other bug straight in the eye. The grouchy ladybug stepped back. It looked less sure of itself. Oh, you're not big enough for me to fight, it said. Then why don't you pick on somebody bigger? I'll do that, screeched the grouchy ladybug. I'll show you. It puffed itself up and flew off. So that was an example of how I transitioned between the different voices. So there was my nice and soothing narrator voice and my nice and friendly ladybug voice, and then my grouchy ladybug voice, which again, really apologize for it, but whatever. At 6 o'clock, it met a yellow jacket. Hey you, said the grouchy ladybug. Wanna fight? If you insist, said the yellow jacket, showing its stinger. Oh, you're not big enough, said the grouchy ladybug, and flew off. At 7 o'clock, it met a stag beetle. Hey you, said the grouchy ladybug. Wanna fight? If you insist, said the stag beetle, opening its jaws. Oh, you're not big enough, said the grouchy ladybug, and flew off. At 8 o'clock, it came across a praying mantis. Hey you, said the grouchy ladybug. Wanna fight? If you insist, said the praying mantis, reaching out with its long front legs. Oh, you're not big enough, said the grouchy ladybug, and flew off. At 9 o'clock, it almost flew into a sparrow. Hey you, said the grouchy ladybug. Wanna fight? If you insist, said the sparrow, opening its sharp beak. Oh, you're not big enough, said the grouchy ladybug, and flew off. At 10 o'clock, it saw a lobster. Hey you, said the grouchy ladybug. Wanna fight? If you insist, said the lobster, stretching out its claws. Oh, you're not big enough, said the grouchy ladybug, and flew off. At 11 o'clock, it bumped into a skunk. Hey you, said the grouchy ladybug. Wanna fight? If you insist, said the skunk, starting to lift its tail. Oh, you're not big enough, said the grouchy ladybug, and flew off. At 12 noon, it spotted a boa constrictor. Hey you, said the grouchy ladybug. Wanna fight? If you insist, said the snake, right after lunch. Oh, you're not big enough, said the grouchy ladybug, and flew off. At 1 o'clock, it happened upon a hyena. Hey you, said the grouchy ladybug. Wanna fight? If you insist, said the hyena, laughing eerily and showing its teeth. Oh, you're not big enough, said the grouchy ladybug, and flew off. At 2 o'clock, it met a gorilla. Hey you, said the grouchy ladybug. Wanna fight? If you insist, said the gorilla, beating its chest. Oh, you're not big enough, said the grouchy ladybug, and flew off. At 3 o'clock, it ran into a rhinoceros. Hey, you, said the grouchy ladybug. Wanna fight? If you insist, said the rhinoceros, lowering its horn. Oh, you're not big enough, said the grouchy ladybug, and flew off. At 4 o'clock, it encountered an elephant. Hey, you, said the grouchy ladybug. Wanna fight? If you insist, said the elephant, raising its trunk and showing its big tusks. Oh, you're not big enough, said the grouchy ladybug, and flew off. At 5 o'clock, it met a whale. Hey, you, said the grouchy ladybug. Wanna fight? But the whale did not answer at all. You're not big enough anyway, said the grouchy ladybug, and flew off. At 5:15, the grouchy ladybug said to one of the whale's flippers, Hey, you want to fight? But it got no answer, so it flew on. At 5:30, the grouchy ladybug said to the whale's fin, Hey, you want to fight? But it got no answer, so it flew on. At 5:45, the grouchy ladybug said to the whale's tail, Hey, do you want to fight? But the whale's tail gave the grouchy lady such a slap that it flew across the sea and across the land. At 6 o'clock, the grouchy ladybug arrived back where it had started from. Ah, here you are again, said the friendly ladybug. You must be hungry. There are still some aphids left. You can have them for dinner. Oh, thank you, said the wet, tired, and hungry ladybug. Sticky pages. Here we go. Soon all the aphids were gone. Thank you, said the leaf. You are welcome, answered both ladybugs, and they went to sleep. The fireflies, who had been sleeping all day, came out to dance around the moon. So that was The Grouchy Ladybug by Eric Carlisle. Again, I apologize once more repeatedly for the voice. The kids really liked doing that one, especially looking back at the animals and saying, like, would you want to fight a yellow jacket, or would you want to fight a beetle? And then going through and saying what kind of animal is that one, and then guessing with that one and interacting with them. And that's all part of the story too. It's not just reading the words, it's interacting with the kids and asking them questions about it and making them think about the story, in addition to doing all the voices and the characters and the pacing of the story and everything. So hopefully you guys liked that. Hopefully you got some good tips from this video. And hopefully next time when you read stories to kids that you'll either remember some of these tips or remember my horrible voice, and that surely nothing you read or sound like will be anything as horrible as that. So I guess I'll see you guys all later. Bye!